Welcome back, my students, to another episode of Comic Class. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be looking at the final part in my TMNT Mirage Retrospective with City at War story arc. And yeah, now this story arc is 13 issues long, guys. So it's possibly going to be the longest video in this retrospective. So I suggest that you sit down, get some popcorn, and enjoy the video. And yeah, without further ado, let's get on to the video. Let's go. City at War basically starts off very ambiguous in that I really don't know what to say about this first issue. It basically just focuses on the lives of all the different characters, such as the Ninja Turtles, Splinter, and April and Casey, and we get to see just different things that they're doing, such as being around the farmhouse or with Splinter basically meditating in the forest. And eventually we get to see that a war has broken out in the city between the elite guard of the Shredder, the regular foot people, army, I guess you could say, and the police people. And yeah, so it gets pretty brutal. So we get to see that the elite guard is pretty much kind of dominating the battle between everybody and is fighting against the foot soldiers in the first issue, and pretty much is just dominating and shows that they're a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, they pretty much brutally murder a ton of foot soldiers. Now we get to see that the Ninja Turtles are basically seeing what's happening around the city and that the war is escalating between the three factions, with the Ninja Turtles wondering if they should join the factions themselves. And after this, we get to see that Casey Jones is basically heading out of town, trying to find his place in the world after him and April didn't really work out as a couple, and eventually he finds himself at this sort of diner. Now, while he's at this diner, we get to see that he starts talking to this woman named Gabby, I believe is her name. And yeah, he basically tells her about his life and exactly what he's been going through lately. And they kind of like share this moment together. But when Casey is about to leave and he's in the parking lot, he basically gets jumped by these two guys, and they basically try to take him on, and they eventually get the upper hand on him and steal his car from him. So we also get to see what's happening with April, and that she has came to live with her sister in California, and that's pretty much going to be their plot point when it comes to April's character, is that she has this interaction with her sisters, and sister, and basically her father is in the hospital at the moment, and that's her plot point during this arc. Now we get to see that the Ninja Turtles are finally we see that the Ninja Turtles are kind of feeling lost, and that they feel like they're the neighborhood watch instead of, you know, being their protectors, because nothing is really being done because they haven't decided to join the factions yet, or to even just join the war as their own army or faction, as you would say. Now you get to see that Casey and Gabby basically start living together, and that she gives them a place to stay, and they pretty much start dating. And this is going to be an important plot point for the future in this arc. Now we get to see that the Ninja Turtles are basically stopping a mugging from happening from this, I guess, couple. And basically they take on these guys that are trying to, you know, kind of like rob them, basically mud them. So Ninja Turtles basically save them from getting mugged. And this is where Raphael states that he doesn't understand why Leonardo's having the Ninja Turtles, you know, just be saving people when it's not foot related. But like Leo said, you couldn't just let these people get mugged, it wouldn't be right. But while this is all happening, Raphael's getting mad that he doesn't have anyone to fight. It turns out that the Foot have invented these machine monsters that are attacking the city. So basically the Ninja Turtles, you know, they see this giant monster just, you know, wrecking this car, or this giant bus, and it turns out that, you know, the Foot are actually, you know, it's on their side. So the Ninja Turtles basically jump into action, and they start taking on the machine monster. Now the machine monster is basically taking on the foot soldiers as well, so it's kind of like unstable, it seems, in its programming. And yeah, eventually, you know, one of them, I think it's Michelangelo, says that, you know, that Raph needs to look at it, that there's no way it could get worse. But he's pretty much dead wrong, because the Elite Guard make their appearance to the battlefield. So before we get into that action, we get to find out from Gabby that she's actually pregnant with someone else's baby, and she actually tells Casey that she can understand if he doesn't want to be with her, and that's why she kept it a secret from him. But Casey says that he wants to be with her no matter what, and that he'll take care of the baby. That he'll just do it, basically, because he loves her. And I thought that was some really good development for Casey's character. Now, jumping back into the action, the elite guard jumped down, and this dude, I think he's by himself, just fighting as one of the elite guard, is just wrecking the foot soldiers that are, going up against him. And, Leonardo and the rest of the turtles are fighting as well. And the police eventually show up, the SWAT team, and they're not playing around. They start shooting at the ninjas. So we have this huge war just breaking out with Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo about to take on the elite guards. And this is where they kind of like make their escape. And Leonardo basically tells Michelangelo that he needs to get all of the turtles, out of there because it's just going to get worse. So eventually they arrive to an area where they're safe, and they basically have a discussion with each other, basically with Leo saying that he understands that, it's going to get worse. That what they just did is that they just escalated the war to a level to where they're probably going to have to join the fight. Now, Donatello tries to be optimistic, but Leonardo basically tells them, to shut up, which was very uncharacteristic of Leonardo, but you can tell the stress getting to all of them. So, it's just a little moment. We get to see that Casey Jones actually is trying to get a job to support Gabby as well and make it easier for her, but his job kind of backfires and he gets fired. We also get to see that Splinter is dealing with, getting hurt. He's like in this like sewer system, so we'll jump back into him later. But yeah, so we get to see Ninja Turtles are basically just wondering like what is it that they need to do, because it's just not clear the answer if they should join the fight or not. But while that's happening, they're having their little crisis. It turns out that the elite guard is making their moves to attack more people in the city and kind of like escalate the war, and killing more foot soldiers as well. It's just, it's kind of messed up. Now the Splinter basically is shown to be, introduced to a new character called the Rat King, and he basically is trying to get Splinter to use his primal instincts and survive off of his own willpower and his animal instincts of being a rat. So that's going to be Splinter's kind of like little character arc in this story arc. Now we get to see that Raphael basically gets mad while they're up on the rooftops doing their exercise for the night, and he actually separates from the group, being mad and wanting time to himself. And this is where he gets into a fight with one of the elite guards. It's a really cool one-on-one fight with Raphael coming out on top. Now when the other ninjas join Raphael, the elite guard basically tells him that he'll always be loyal to the Shredder, that he will slay them one day even if it's in the next life, and he commits Sabuku, which is what Leonardo had told the Shredder to do in the first issue. And it looks like his elite guards will actually go through with it. They have no problem with killing themselves for the Shredder's honor, and I thought that was really cool. Now we also get a full panel look at the Rat King, with Splinter basically telling him, what he needs to tell him and try and get him to use primal instincts. So that was pretty cool. Now we get to see that basically Casey Jones gets married to Gabby, and they kind of go like on a little honeymoon, which was really cool to see. We also get to see that April has a fight with her sister about, her lifestyle, and that she just doesn't feel happy in California, and it's kind of getting to her. So, that plot point's going on. And we also get introduced to this new character called Karai, which is a ninja assassin, I guess, someone that works for the Foot in Japan. So she has arrived to try to bring control to New York City, in the Shredder's absence, because New York City is just like completely getting destroyed by different factions. So she wants to bring that all to an end. So she is finally king from Japan. Now, basically, Karai's plan is to capture Leonardo and use him as like a hostage to get them to talk without, trying to kill each other. So they ensue into a battle, and basically, eventually they use these like taser weapons, because the battle's getting a little too heated. So Christ has used tasers. So they use tasers to tase Leonardo and capture him, and tell the turtles that they need to meet them at this address to find Leonardo and to trade for him, or basically talk over the issue. So eventually Karai tells her ninjas to leave Leonardo alone and to leave her with him alone. So this is where Karai basically cuts Leonardo out of his restraints and gives him his sword back. It says that she finds no honor in killing somebody that isn't, has weapons, basically an unarmed soldier. It's not cool. So this is where the other turtles arrive, and they say that they appreciate what Karai has done and that she didn't kill Leonardo, but they do want to understand what exactly Karai's plan is. So she explains to them the plan of bringing order to New York City and promises them that if they kill the elite guards and bring order to the city, that she'll keep the foot out of New York City, or at least keep them at bay to where they won't be making havoc all over the city. So the Ninja Turtles agree in the exchange that they do not come after them ever again. And in layman's terms, basically that they'll be safe from the Foot. Even if the Foot doesn't leave New York, they won't attack the Turtles out of spite, which is cool. Now April has the final portion of her character arc, basically with her dad dying and realizing that she wants to head back to New York City. So she tells her sister that she's heading back. And yeah, Splinter has the end of his character arc when he actually eats a lone rat that's just walking around him, basically that was waiting for him to die so that he could eat him, which is pretty morbid. But basically Splinter eats him before he can eat him, and basically the Rat King kind of like rejoices in that he finally gave in to his primal instincts and kind of praises Splinter because of it, showing that he is still part rat and that he had kind of neglected that part of himself for a long time. Now we get the end of Casey's character arc as well, which again was the most interesting out of the side characters, in that it turns out that Gabby gave birth, but in exchange died during childbirth, so now Casey has to raise the child by himself. It's a really emotional moment, and it shows that the character development in Casey, and that he accepts his responsibility despite it not even being his child, and that he kind of has to go through life, and his character arc is probably the most realistic and down to earth that we can all kind of relate to, and dealing with the loss of somebody that he loved. But going back into the main plot, we get to see that the Turtles and Karai basically are in this abandoned warehouse, or some type of house complex, and it's here that we get to see that they go up to the rooftop basically, and they find Karai holding her daughter, and basically her daughter had gotten murdered by the elite guards, it seems. And Karai asks Leonardo to promise her that he'll kill the elite guards with no issue. He'll make sure he kills all of them, him and his brothers, with her. And of course Leonardo agrees, and he realizes that this is definitely going to be the final battle. So we get the very end of Casey's character arc, basically with him giving the ashes, kind of like just throwing them into the wind next to the lake or the ocean, just saying Godspeed Gabby, which was a really sad moment. But yeah, so we get to see that Casey basically goes back to the diner, or he goes to some diner that's around the area, and basically runs into the guys who stole his car, and he beats them up and basically takes his car back. And this is a really cool moment because he says that back in the day he would have probably done much worse, showing how far his character has come since the Raphael one-shot, which, like I said, I will be covering on the channel in the next few days. Now, Splinter basically, starts walking out of the place that he was trapped in, gaining his strength, and he sees that the Rat King was actually dead, and that it must have been some type of spirit that was talking to him, which is really interesting. I'm wondering if they're going to dive into that in the next series after the Mirage series, and what exactly happened there, but I have no idea, so we'll move on. Now we get to see that the Ninja Turtles are in another abandoned house slash apartment complex. It's kind of weird to say where exactly they're at, but they're teamed up with the Foot soldiers that Karai has mustered, and the Elite Guard show up. Now the Elite Guard basically are almost tricked by Karai basically putting on the Shredder's helmet, or some sort of Shredder helmet, and telling them to commit seppuku and kill themselves, basically, in defiance of, shaming the Shredder's name by trying to take over the place by themselves. And only one guy actually commits seppuku, I guess you could say, because of this. And like the other guards say, this isn't something that, they would do, because they understand that this is all a farce, that she's not really the real Shredder. So she reveals herself to be Karai, and a battle ensues, the final battle. So the Elite Guard are not playing around. You know, in the Shredder Strikes Back arc, we already knew the Elite Guard were like very powerful and what they could do, but in the City at War arc, they're rarely shown to be like on a different level in their combat prowess. So each turtle is basically fighting one of the Elite Guard, and it's just crazy. And the Elite Guard are also fighting the foot soldiers as well that Karai has mustered. So it's just a full-on battle royale. And people are dying, you know, like you have foot soldiers, you have the Elite Guard just like falling one by one, and Karai even takes a kill on one of them, on one of the Elite Guard, by putting some sort of like blade or stick, it looks like a candle, right on top of the guy who is falling, and basically impels him when he comes down. Donatello has an awesome fight with this dude, the Elite Guard, on a rooftop, and this guy just like straight up like knocks Donatello off the roof all the way down to where Karai is at. And one of the Elite Guard actually has Karai saying that she must die for dishonoring the Shredder's name, because the Elite Guard do respect the Shredder, and they didn't try to overtake while he was around. They respected him. It's that he's gone now that why they're trying to take his place, because someone powerful needs to take the place. So I don't blame them for doing it, but it's just causing havoc in New York City, and it has to be stopped. So basically, Donatello is like beaten, and he took a huge fall from that Elite Guard, and basically he sees that there's a machine gun for one of the foot soldiers on the ground, and realizing that he has no choice, has to pick it up and actually, you know, shoot it at the Elite Guard, using a gun for the first time to take somebody's life, to save Karai's life. And yeah, you can see it all in Donatello's face that he doesn't find any enjoyment in using a gun, and this does affect him, and we'll talk about that in the ending of this arc. But yeah, so basically he saved Karai's life. Now we jump out of the action real quick to see that Casey Jones actually meets up with April O'Neil in a very twist of fate, with his mother basically renting out their place, or her place, to April, and connecting them once again by sheer hand of fate, basically, which is really cool to see. Now, going into the climax of this arc, we can see that Leonardo takes on the final Elite Guardsman, and they go into a full-on battle, hand-to-hand, or with swords as well, katanas, and there's blood, there's action. I mean, they're going hard at each other, and eventually Leonardo at the very end gets him in a headlock and has to snap his neck. And it's pretty brutal, guys. The ending of this arc was brutal. I mean, that final battle really was like down and gritty, dark, and the snap of the neck, which is something I was not expecting when I first read this, especially from a Ninja Turtle doing that. For anyone that's watched the cartoons, I can never see them doing that, but for anyone like me, when you get into the Mirage series, you start realizing that a lot of stuff you didn't think would happen in Ninja Turtles will happen. So Karai basically talks to the Turtles, saying that it's finally over. And Turtles tell her what she's going to do, and she says she's going to go burn her daughter and place her ashes on some type of beach. And basically Karai states that she will keep her into the promise and keep the foot either out of New York City, or they're going to be there but be more tolerant. They're going to follow the rules and not be causing chaos all over the city. I forget, I don't know exactly what the plan is, but it's something like that, and that they're not going to be a big problem anymore. So that's good news for our heroes. Now we get to see that this awesome panel with Leonardo basically looking up and telling Karai that everything's going to be fine, basically that they will take care of themselves. And yeah, it really signifies, you know, the finale of this story, Kevin Easton and Peter Laird's run. Now, the end of this arc basically shows us Casey Jones and April O'Neil and Shadow, which is the baby of Gabby, and Casey Jones basically taking care of her. And we get to see that they're kind of enjoying their life together. They go to the beach, and it turns out that the Turtles actually arrive and surprise Casey Jones and April O'Neil. Now, they get a talk and basically reveal about the baby and what exactly happened with Gabby, and it's really cool to see. And April, you know, talks about her dad and just how he died, and, you know, all the stuff basically we saw in the arc is being relayed to the Turtles. So the side plot is getting mixed with the main plot, and it all comes together in this final issue. You get to see that Splinter basically shows himself to his sons, and April O'Neil and Casey Jones. And we get to see all of them just interacting. We even get this little cool panel with all of them there, and we get to see one of the turtles actually carrying Baby Shadow, which was really cool. I didn't notice that on the first few times that I saw that panel, but yeah. We get to learn that Donatello basically tells Leonardo that he's not heading back to New York with his brothers, that he wants to stay with Splinter to actually learn and find himself, because after, I guess, he was in that battle, I mean, he took a beating. If you saw that final fight, or read that final fight, I guess you should say, using that machine gun to take a life, I mean, it was just something that kind of traumatized him. I mean, it traumatized anybody that had to do something like that on the fly. So Donatello basically is going to stay with Splinter to kind of like regain himself and find himself, which I thought was awesome. It just shows that there is consequences for doing stuff like that, especially for Donatello, who's not really shown to be, the type to take people's lives. It definitely would affect someone like him, or Michelangelo for that matter. And so I really enjoyed that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird did that for Donatello's character. And even Splinter says Donatello's decision has been made, basically telling Leonardo that he has to accept what his brother has chosen, because they all have to walk their own path, and they have to choose their own paths as well. So that's really cool. And April O'Neil has this talk with Splinter where she basically tells them that she's learned so much from him, and that he's kind of like a family to her now, and that she loves them, basically, him and his family. This is where Splinter basically tells her that he sees her as his daughter, showing a full circle in where all these characters went from issue 2, I guess, to this point on issue like 21. Fantastic. And you get that really cool panel with them just hugging each other, and it's amazing. It's a very heartwarming moment. And the arc ends with that old man that we saw in the first issue, which I don't know who he was supposed to be. It was very ambiguous to me. If anyone knows that's ever read this comic, let me know who that guy is supposed to be. But the story pretty much ends with him looking out the window and just showing New York City, basically this building, and just everything looking normal again. And I guess that was the point, was to show everything is finally back to normal. Now let's talk about the City at War story arc, because that's it, guys. This was a long video, probably the longest one on the channel, but it needs to be said, I had to go through all this because it's one of the greatest arcs I've ever read in comic books, one of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stories I've ever read, and I can definitely see why this has been readapted many times in comics and in cartoons as well, because it's just an amazing story. And I really have nothing else to say, guys. It's something you need to experience at least once in your life if you're a Ninja Turtles fan. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to go check out the issues legally on Comixology. And yeah, overall, if you haven't already, go check out all 5 other videos that come before this. The whole playlist will be on the channel. Go check it out for the TMNT Mirage run. I'm going to be jumping to the 2011 comics. I don't know if I'm going to be reviewing it as I'm going through it, or if I'm going to go through it and then review it after I'm done, once I'm caught up. But I am going to be doing 2011 videos really soon. The IDW series is, I hear it's amazing, and is definitely recommended for anyone that likes the Mirage run like myself. So I can't wait to jump into those comments. But that's gonna be all, guys. Until the next video, God bless you, and remember, until the next lesson, keep on reading.